Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Energy Captains Podcast. Whitney Holtzman, I missed you. How are you doing?
I know. I can't believe we are at the end of 2020. Someone said to me, "Oh, I can't believe it's December," and I'm like, "It's really like the 10th month of March. It's just the year that you never know what day, time, or month it is." So I can't believe we're at the end of it, and I'm glad we got we're getting some more Energy Captains podcasts in. But what a year it's been, and somehow it went by quickly.
It went by quickly, and I want to introduce the man, Darrell Campbell himself. NFL films, NFL legend himself. Darrell, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. A couple things right now that I guess that are kind of weighing on my heart. Just signed, well, not just signed, but just closed on our first home out here in New Jersey last week. Big crib. I'm super thankful, super blessed. God is good. We've been kind of my whole journey from NFL, from team to team, mainly a practice squad guy, did have some bouts where I'm on and off the active roster there. But for the most part, big ups to God this past week, closing on the home. It's three levels, 5,000 square feet. Basement is 1,200, little over 1,200 square feet. Sitting on a little over half an acre. My son was running around the other day in the snow being a lunatic, but I was loving it because I was just thinking like, hey, I wanted this to happen for him a long time ago. But, hey, it all happens in God's time. So I'm really, really blessed. But Darrell Campbell, associate producer at NFL Films, been here for, this will be 11 years. Jesus, man, 11 years, right? That's crazy. But how did I get here? Let's talk about that. So,
and Darrell, before you dive in, I had a couple questions about the house. First of all, I assume when the pandemic's over that Cam and I are invited to the housewarming. It seems like you have enough levels.
Of course, my wife Candace is. We have ample space. There's 5 bedrooms on the second floor. There was 2. There's the master, and there was another one, but my wife wants that to be her closet. So, hey, I'm gonna have to squeeze in there somewhere. And then
it sounds like the Energy Captains there's enough room we could have our own wing. Tons
of room for all the energy that we won't spontaneously combust with all of that in there in the same space. So without question, you guys are there.
Okay, good. Just wanted to confirm that. And then secondarily, as you were talking about having a home finally, it kind of struck me, the sports world is a little bit like a military lifestyle at times. You can get cut, you get signed by new teams, you have to move, you're hopping around all the time because that's a big part of a pro athlete's journey. Is it more meaningful now to have one place where you can put your roots down and call home?
Yeah, I think it's more meaningful in a number of different ways. Honestly, it's more meaningful because if I'm honest, I would have loved to be, a Pro Bowl player. I would have loved to have a storied career that lasted for double-digit seasons, in the NFL. But, I was a journeyman, and it's, started in Chicago in 2004, stayed there for 2 years, was traded to Cleveland, had a sip of coffee there, went to Tampa Bay for 2 seasons. I was out of the league for maybe 6-7 months, and then I bounced to Baltimore. I was there for like another sip of coffee. They let me go like week 1 to week 2. And then from there, it was kind of like, hey, what do you do now, right? I've been playing football since I was a little tyke, and then now it's like it seems like it was the thing that killed me is I remember one of the scouting guys from Baltimore were like, hey, you know what? You're getting a little long in the tooth. Maybe it's time to, and I'm like 27, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, what does that even mean? Like,
I was asking that, what does that mean?
How am I long in the tooth? And I'm like 27. So, I'm on the show for 6-7 months. I get a call to Montreal. I go north of the border for, a couple seasons, win some Grey Cups. I come back after that. And, I think Baltimore was the first time, honestly, in Montreal where I was able to bring my whole self to the game, and it was received and received not only by the team but by the fans. If you Google any pictures of me, like when I was in Canada, I have this huge, like I used to call it a face fro because it would like go around my whole head and just connect with my beard. And the funny thing is in Montreal, all of the fans and even some of the staff we had with the Alouettes would call me Kimbo. That was my nickname, Kimbo Slice. I don't know if that's the affectionate name that you want, but at the same time, it was still kind of cool.
It's an accurate look. Yeah, it's an accurate look.
So, but I was playing, and at the same time, I kind of got introduced to grinding a little bit because a few thousand Canadian a week, and on any given day, that U.S. to Canadian ratio could be positive in your favor or negative in your favor. So, outside of that, I would be kind of downtown Montreal or in Montreal, fixing people's computers, doing software development. We had a couple of the staff members that were handling all of our, plays and cut-ups. Like every team in the NFL has their own videography staff. Like they just have a staff that handles all of our cut-ups, all of your XOs. We had like 2 French Canadians that didn't speak English, and it was hard to get media from them. And when they became disgruntled, they just kind of left like mid-season. It was like for us to fend and figure out how we're going to watch tape. And I was like, hey, you know what? Hey, Jim Pop, if you slap me a few extra Canadian, I can be able to handle this for you, And then he was like, I don't know. You just worry about playing. I'm telling you, I can do this. And, at the end of the day, it ended up working out. I ended up handling the cut-ups and our team highlights. And that
while you were playing?
While I was playing, making a little extra money under the table. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're going to watch the tape anyway. So why not just, handle it for the team? So when I left there.
What do you think motivated you to have a side hustle while you were playing?
I think the biggest motivation was 1, family, 2, because bills don't stop no matter where you go. And I think 2 was just, I was a computer science major, double major, computer science, English at Notre Dame, went to grad school for operating systems. And it was like the first time I really had a real world applicable chance to utilize the knowledge. Right. So I did. And then it was like, okay, I can do a Windows XP refresh in Canada for like 600, 800 Canadian, where in like,
what does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, so here's the thing. So like, I'll put it to you like this. If you went to Best Buy, right, and you hit up Geek Squad, right, you'd go in there and then my computer is so slow. This laptop is just, I don't know what's going on with this integrated graphics card. You're like, oh, well, you give it to us. We'll tell you what's going on with it. They'll take it. They'll charge you like, I don't know, something like $80 or $100, right? And there's a guy that gets paid, I don't know how many bucks per hour to do this. Probably not very much, right? Now let's go north of the border, right? You have all of those units, all of those machines, and there very few people know what they're doing. And there are just tons of shops that charge an exorbitant amount to do something as simple as that. But it would be probably $400 or $500 more than what it would be below the border. So I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, that shop does it. This shop does it. They're doing it over there. If I'm in the middle, I could crush this thing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like how that would be the equivalent of what it is that I was doing. So that was my side hustle as well as playing,
Very entrepreneurial. I mean, usually when something technology wise breaks, I go through the process of first just crying about it, second hitting every button, the power button, and third unplugging it, replugging it in. And to me, if that doesn't fix it, like you're just going to have to throw the whole thing out and start over.
Yeah, I totally understand.
And then, I had a quick question when you were talking about your journey. Do you, from your own experience, recommend after, having so many stops in the NFL, then going to the CFL? Because I bet a lot of people probably grapple with the decision of, okay, I've had a really storied NFL career. I've gotten to play for a lot of teams. Do I want to call it quits now, or is it worth the experience to go play in Canada?
I think, for me, I didn't want the playing career to be over. And, what you kind of come to a crossroads, because it'll be, okay, cool. On one hand, all right, well, there's the brand of the NFL and what that means as a young player to all of the 32 teams. But then there's, okay, since I was a kid playing this game, putting my hand in the dirt and rushing the passer, and just that love, right? I don't want that to end. And what inevitably happens is you say, you know what? I choose the love over the money. I choose the love over the brand. I choose the love just so I can keep doing what I feel like God still has in my heart to do. And then at that point, I think that's when kind of the wheels start turning, and you start looking outward and saying, you know what? I feel like there's a shelf life here. I might be getting close to it. So let me start getting into the side hustle thing, or what's next. You start really thinking about that around that time. And Canada was that for me. That's when it was like, you know what, it really is about the love of the game. The money is going to come, but God has given me an opportunity to keep, putting my hand in the dirt and work. So.
And DC, what are those things behind you? You have a lot of or pants behind you, shirts.
My office. Anybody here in NFL Films, they know. And the kids love coming to my office. By the way, I got everything, and I got Incredible Hulk Marvel stuff on the wall. My son loves to draw anime. He drew Goku when I wish I could. I don't want to.
Dragon Ball Z. I'm right there with you.
He's got a Goku drawn. I'll send it to you guys. It's pretty cool. He drew that when he was 5. It's epic. And then I got, when I was, so after Canada, I came back below the border. I was still on the shelf for a little bit, and I got introduced to NFL Films. How that happened, and we're going to segue to this wall in a second. How that happened is Mark Trestman was the head coach. He had a friend in Greg Cosell, who is the executive producer for NFL Matchup, ESPN NFL Matchup, longest running XO TV show in history. Some going on like 40-some years now. They needed a guy to come in and be a seasonal worker. It didn't end up happening for me to be a seasonal worker, but I ended up being an intern. Came here, interviewed, they loved me. And my first year here, I just learned, made no money at all. And then—
How old were you at that point?
Jesus, that was 29.
Because I think a lot of people associate the term intern with being in college. And I think you make a really good point that if you're transitioning from one career to the next and you need to get experience, an internship is always an available opportunity to pitch for yourself or look around for. You shouldn't restrict yourself just because you're not college age anymore.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Whitney. And I think the biggest thing that us, and Cam, you'll agree to this too, we always say when we're playing football, the more you can do, right? It's the same thing,
Be a Swiss Army knife.
Oh, you have to be. It's the same thing in the business world. It's the same thing in production. It's the same thing, when you hang up the cleats and you start getting into the workplace, to doing 9 to 5. You want to get your foot in the door. You want to show and prove, and then show that you can acclimate within the company and then be of value, right? It's the same thing, on the football team. So, before I get down a rabbit hole here, so came here, intern, made no money the first year. Second year, we had a guy by the name of Nick Kehoe, who was the graphics producer for NFL Matchup. He left, went to the network, and they were like, hey, we need somebody to, be our graphics guy, our optic guy, cut our tape, cut our film for our shows. And they gave me an opportunity to do that seasonally. I did that for 2 or 3 years. They gave me, an opportunity to do some rough edits for Inside the NFL. And then, hey, this guy can write. He can cut film. He knows football. Let's onboard him. And then full-time job, full-time PA, then full-time producer. Then now I'm a full-time associate producer. And 3 Emmys later, here we are.
Mic drop.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Mic drop.
But the cool thing is, those first few years doing the seasonal work, working. So I was still playing ball. So Chicago Rush. 6 months on, 6 months off, and I come back and fall into that rotation with the league. I was still playing ball. I played with the Philadelphia Soul for the first 2 years, and I went to the Chicago Rush for that third year. And then the year after that is when they onboarded me full time, and then football was over and full-time producer type stuff.
Actually, that kind of brings up a good question for people who don't understand the conglomerate, because when you're fans sitting at home, you turn on your TV and the NFL, you see the games, and then you see the show. Can you talk about all of the entities involved, and then specifically what you do at Films versus network versus commissioner's office?
Right. So if you think about the NFL Network as our platform, right, and that's where all of our programming, most of all of our programming goes, that has to do with sports and the on-field games, the VODs, all of that, and what have you.
Owned and operated.
Yeah. All of our media goes on there. What we do here at NFL Films, we're the storytellers, been doing it ever since 1962. So Ed Sable, Steve Sable started this place. They basically built it, cultivated it. We're the keepers, holders of the flame to make sure that those stories are echoed, for generations to come. So what I do behind the scenes, I'm the guy behind the camera. I'm not the guy in front of the camera. Don't ever want to be there. I had a hand at broadcast boot camp, and I was sitting next to James Brown, and I was sitting up there, and I was super giddy and smiling, and I'm like, man, I'm sitting next to James Brown. This is crazy. And they're like, hey, listen, you gotta contain yourself, man. Like, in front of the camera. I'm like,
he's a basketball background too. He played basketball in college. I mean, wow.
Yeah. But you know me, Cam. I'm just a gigantic, gregarious individual. So for the most part, I just kind of get. You guys are the energy captains. I'm like the energy captain, on the bench here at NFL Films for you guys, because that's just kind of how I live my life.
So Hard Knocks, though, right? You produce a lot of those clips. That's where you got your Emmys from. I was on Hard Knocks twice. So it's like, can you give us some background
you're
on
that? You're a character. Yeah. So as you know, every season we pick a team to basically do a reality kind of show on the making a team roster, making a 53-man roster every year. So, this past season, we did two teams: the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers. So we did those two teams. We've done Tampa, we've done the Oakland Raiders. Just going back for I think it might be over 20 years now. We've been doing Hard Knocks. I don't know the actual numbers, but that's pretty much what Hard Knocks is. That's where I got my 3 Emmys. Actually, my 3rd Emmy was from the NFL 100 event for that content.
Nice.
Last year.
Well, Hard Knocks is everyone's favorite show. So you obviously do a phenomenal job, except I will say, just disappointed that you allowed Cam to get cut on the show. I mean, couldn't you have, cut that part or redone it? I don't think it's just
the crazy thing is I always say this, it's an old school adage. All the old folks used to say, hey, God makes no mistakes, because if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be here, and Cam wouldn't be in the league office being awesome as he is now. So
that's a great segue, because can you tell the world, the people listening to the Energy Captains podcast, how we work together and what we've done these past few weeks, kind of in the same places we've been?
So from on the field to off the field, obviously you guys are hugely successful with the Energy Captains podcast. And then now my main man Cam is at the league office working with the field operations group, doing some big things for Tracy Perlman, Troy Vincent, and the player engagement a portion of our business. And, right now we just got off of a podcast a couple days back with Langston Moore for the NFL Legends community. So Cam has his hands in just about everything that we're doing, and I'm super excited to work next to him. Not next to because of COVID, uncertain times, but cross-platform through Zoom and be engaged in our business. So it's great.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a favorite season of Hard Knocks that sticks out? And then how did you guys do this year's with COVID?
Let's see. I think, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the producers in-house would agree that Hard Knocks Houston Texans might have been probably one of the best Hard Knocks that we had. I mean, it might have been 4 or 5 years ago, but there was
just a favorite memory.
Oh, I think J.J. Watt coming over the bridge like Ivan Drago. It was ridiculous. I think that sticks out to me more than anything else. And then he just came and laid waste to everybody that got in his way all throughout camp, honestly. And then also we had a kind of an isolated moment where, and I thought this was really cool, and it just speaks to the character that he is and the heart that he has and the passion he has, not just for the game, but for fans. Is there, we had an episode where, and we closed it maybe like the last 15 minutes, where we just kind of showcased him working by himself. It was later on in the night after practice. He's hitting the sled. He's going through the bags. He's already been practicing for 3 straight hours, still drenching with sweat. And, you still have those fan faithful that are, aligning the fence, and, he finishes, getting that extra work in. And then, he stays an extra half an hour, 40 minutes to just sign autographs for kids until he, goes off field. And I thought that was just epic to me, honestly. I really did. And I think those are the moments, that need to be played up more, especially during times like now.
And you see people like J.J. Watt, who's probably a walking Hall of Famer, and then you see guys like Aaron Donald, when you see them at their closest, at a more intimate level, because that camera, I've done it for 2 years, the Rams and Buccaneers, that camera is everywhere. It's in your house. So how would you, when you see J.J. Watt play, you see Aaron Donald play at a more intimate level because that camera's there, what do you bring from it?
Well, I mean, I think, every camera, every angle tells a different story. And I think the reason why we're probably one of the best, if not the best in the world to capture on the field footage and tell those stories is because, I like to say that NFL Films is a beehive. If you go to Hollywood, a lot of the things that you do are outsourced in LA. You know what I mean? You don't have everything under one roof. We have footage acquisition, we have field operations, we have audio, we have the tech side of the building, we have a graphics department, we have offline and online producers and edit suites. You know what I mean? And all of that combined, that's a Hollywood formula sitting right out here in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. So we're able to put together a string of moments based upon each of those camera angles to pull out that, those gems that make people at home say, man, how did they do that? How did they really get in there? They're showing the drop of sweat drip off his chin and just collide off of a blade of grass. Like, how are they doing this? But that's sweat. That too, but it's a testament to one. I like to say, if you were playing Madden, you know what it would be like to have an all Madden squad versus a regular squad. I'm on the all Madden team every day. I go into the office. So yeah.
Shout out to the team.
Shout out squad.
And just out of curiosity, by the time that you retired from playing football, did you feel like you had developed a second identity off the field and didn't just define yourself by being an athlete anymore? And then for players, coming up through their various leagues now, when is the right time for them to develop their second identity?
I think you have to have that kind of you have to have that moment that makes you come to terms with accepting that, the end might be near. As I said, for me, I was like, going to Montreal and then having to have that side hustle. And then once I came back from north of the border, being on the shelf for another 6-7 months, I took all that in and I said, you know what, this might be it. What's the next thing? Right. And, once your mind trips into that space of what's the next thing, I'm not going to say the passion is gone, because I think the passion is going to always be there. Hell, I'm 39 years old and, there are kids and they're coming to LA Fitness back when things were normal. And you could see them going through doing football drills and they just think they know, and you drop some knowledge on them like, oh, big dog, you can still play, man. You're kind of strong. I'm still benching over 450 on a good day, so,
hey,
but it's, lightweight, but it's just one of those things. Like, when you have that moment where kind of like either the game will bring it to you, or it'll just kind of be you'll just kind of feel it within yourself, and this might be it. I know when I was in Montreal and again when I was with the Philadelphia Soul, I remember a game and I'm playing on a field that's 50 yards long and there's walls, and I'm just thinking I'm thinking about how the dynamic from the NFL game to Montreal playing on the soccer field. And then now I'm basically playing in a little bit something longer and wider than an alleyway, and there's walls. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, you know what, might be time to wrap it up. And then also too, you look to the left and to the right, you got kids that are 18, 19, 20. And, here I am, I'm, double digits older than them. And I'm just like, it might be time. And then, you start to make those next steps. You start to connect the dots and align it to where your strengths are. And yeah.
Were there any people that helped you get to that point? Like Whitney's been tremendous in my transition, right? Just starting a business, right? Podcasting, doing different things, keeping active. I live 10 minutes down the street from her in Tampa, right? So was there someone in your life that helped you through that transition and helped you like, hey, this is where you belong. Keep going in this direction.
I'd say the number one influence in my life, even in being able to get here, it's been my wife, honestly. We've been together for 15, 16 years now, married for 10, going to be 11 on the 22nd. Thank God. Love her to death. But if it wasn't for her, I probably would have quit playing a long time ago because, not having the career that you want, constantly in a different helmet, going from one team to the next, it has an emotional toll, right? And my wife was the one when, I remember I went through like 16 workouts in a year, and it was just like, good God, how many times I'm going to run a 40? I'm going to do a 3-cone. I'm going to, do a vertical jump, and, I'm getting in one plane. I'm getting out of one plane and into another. You know what I'm saying? Living out of a bag. I had one bag for like a month and a half, and it's just like, Jesus, you know what I mean? But my wife was the one that was, always open arms, hugging the tears away, telling me I could do it, telling me that, God still has something for you, saying that it's not over for you yet. Your best days are in front of you. Because it was hard. It really was hard. And then, your family takes a toll too, because when you're not playing, this, Cam, you're not making no money. And if you're not making any money, I remember there was a time I was in my mom's basement for, a good 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm just trying to figure things out. And that's just not the place you want to be. And it has nothing to do with, oh man, you didn't save your money or do anything like that. When you have family, your family says, hey, listen, we don't want you to spend your money. Hey, stay here, save your money, do the right things where you always can come home, that type of deal. But as a man, and if you have, a significant other, and then that becomes a wife, like my wife Candace did. If it wasn't for her, I would have tapped out a long time ago. And
now
even
y'all got a home now. And y'all got a home now.
And now we got a home. And then also too, being able to have someone that gives you that guidance to the right people. My wife graduated from Penn State. She's an English major, business major. She did events, she did plays, she wrote, she had that production mind. I didn't have that mind. My background was tech. So, coming into NFL Films, one, you have that internship, you're learning, but at the same time, I'm like, did they using NLEs? What the hell are these? And they're using that, and they're doing this, and they're editing, and the Nick Kehoe, who was doing the stuff doing the graphics for NFL Match. I'm like, how in the hell is he doing that? And then the very next year, I have to be that guy. And my wife was like, listen, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna apply yourself just like you did when you played ball. You had to go get reps, right? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy an Avid Media Composer. You're gonna learn it. We're gonna pick up the program so you can come hit the ground running when you start your first day. And she was the one that sent by me. Nope, you got to stay up. You got to do this. You got to do that. And then I learned. And then once I learned and I applied it in this environment, I'm surrounded by the best in the business who don't want to do anything else but help you get better. And so once they did that, again, it's the rest is history, as it were. So
it sounds like of all the teams that you've played on, your wife has been the best teammate of them all.
Oh, without question. I would be. And I would be less than nothing if it wasn't for my wife, man.
What an angel. And you've obviously been very humble, telling us like you're behind the camera, but we know the truth, which is actually you are a superstar and a wonderful person, but you have your own podcast. So you're clearly at times much more in front of the mic than you're letting on. So tell us about that and how you decided to start it. And, for people out there, is it really scary and overwhelming to try and start a podcast after you've been an athlete?
Well, I'd say this again, just as my wife is my number one, my rib, my number one fan has been there, from when I was getting it out of the mud to now. Justin Vigil, who's, my co-host of the podcast, we were sitting in his home and just talking about the news and the things that are going on in the world. And it just seemed like from one negative, deal to the next, there was just not enough positivity that was being broadcast. And we both took it upon ourselves to say, why don't we just start our own podcast and just start shedding light on people and start talking about, individuals that are in business and are intentional. And we just need to do that together. All right, cool, bro. Let's do it. We started with an iPhone. It was audio. And now we have our own podcast. It's video. And now we talk to musicians. We talk to, corporate professionals. We talk to former football players. Cam, my man Cam was on our podcast. That's in the archives. Go check it out. Every Man Podcast. It's on YouTube and everywhere, podcasts are. So
Cosmic Canoe. I'm in the Cosmic Canoe.
In the Cosmic Canoe. So yeah,
what's the Cosmic Canoe?
The Cosmic Canoe is where everyone who is intentional, everyone who does have an inner light that they want to shed on everyone else, to the world, I should say, comes to start paddling downstream with us. You know what I mean? If you're on the sideline, you want to be a part of it, Whitney. I mean, you're going to be in that Cosmic Canoe with us here in a second. Cam is already in there. Cam is already in it with us. So, the Everyman Podcast, again, like I said, if it wasn't for my wife with football, if it wasn't for my brother and my partner in crime, Justin Vigil, it would not be. So,
and what's the name of the podcast, and how can people listen?
It's called the Everyman Podcast. You can if you just search it on YouTube, search it as Google, we'll probably be at the top of that query, and you'll see me, Brother Jay, and whoever we have a guest on at the moment. So, yeah.
Wow, the Everyman Podcast, DC. Much love, man. I mean, I feel like we went through a lot of stuff today. I appreciate our conversation. It was nice to finally get you on here.
Let me ask you guys a question. So, what are you guys doing now? How are you guys living? How are you guys feeling? How's the world been blessing you? Hit me with something.
Whitney, I'll let the ladies go first.
I don't think I always try and be open and honest and transparent. And I don't think I would be doing justice to what people have been going through and the challenges people have been facing to say, oh, this year has been great and there's so much whatever. I think that what I've focused this year has been so challenging. There's been so many disappointments and heartbreaks and sadness all around. And I see my parents regularly in Tampa. So I'm completely social distancing where a lot of the world is not. So, it's just been a lot of hanging at home. And I think for me, the big takeaway from this year, I just keep talking about the silver linings. For me, that's been the key. What are the nice parts that have been able to happen that wouldn't have happened if we weren't in this situation? And I think you have to focus on that because no one is immune. It's been a challenging year for everyone.
So Whitney, that all being said, best part of 2020. I know there has to be a gem in there for you. What's the best part?
Honestly, for me, it was sports coming back. I didn't realize you come up with you realize what an appreciation you have for the sports world. I mean, for me, it was just, there was so much sadness going on. And when sports came back, there was like a fire that relit inside of me and a joy that came back. What about for you?
Oh, for me, the best, again, I think I hit a crescendo here and, closing on my home. That's with my wife and my son. Like I said, I think that has been the best portion. Thinking about it, just a close on a home in the middle of a pandemic, and 7-8 months ago I was furloughed and I didn't really have a job. So it's can't end any better than this.
Well, we're glad that, in just a short amount of time that all those things that you were hoping for and more came back for you, because you absolutely deserve that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And like Darrell said, anyone can listen to his podcast, the Everyman Podcast. So make sure that you jump on and, you listen to his episodes. He is so wise himself, and he knows a lot of really cool people that he's been able to have on as guests. And obviously there's, the episode with Cam. So I'm sure that's the top one that people should go listen to first. And, we hope that we get to see you down here in Tampa at the Super Bowl. Cam and I are waiting here with open arms.
Oh yeah, I'll be there. Hopefully.
Awesome. All right. Thanks.
Much love, DC.